Hello, 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 everyone. Today we have one of the very, very, very special ones, especially if you've been a longtime a longtime member of the Companion. He is the Arthur C. Clarke Award director, coming into his 19th year. It's the most prestigious prize for UK science fiction novels. A huge advocate of women in STEM, serving on the board of Ada Lovelace Day. I turned to him for advice when we were working with MGM on Stargate Command. Then I turned to him again when launching this very platform, The Companion, where he contributed to one of our very early articles. He loves a good craft beer, and I think he holds the honor of being the tallest guest we've ever had, edging out Richard Dean Anderson. Welcome, Tom Hunter.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Thank you for that awesome welcome, Lawrence. Sorry, how tall is Richard Dean Anderson?
I think he's only 6'1" or 6'2".
6'4" is your new one.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. We've had a beer or two. I was gauging.
I'm imagining like probably would have to be right there for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a fantastic welcome. Thank you so much. The only fact check that I have to do is I also like a bog standard beer, and I will also have a glass. I'm not as picky as you made me sound.
I just remember the last time we were in a pub, I think you got a craft beer. I think that's all I remember.
There was a good selection in that bar. That was a work meeting for everyone watching, by the way. That was we got a lot of work done.
That's right. We were actually talking about the Embracing Mental Health as a Fandom book because we were trying to get advice on self-publishing or going with a publisher or independent publishing. So yeah, actually it was very much for work and completely related to The Companion. Yeah.
Because otherwise, we would have just exposed how the work is really done. It's always fast. Yeah. So, I mean, we've got so much to chat about, and I actually, I hope I get a moment to talk about that progress of The Companion since we first sat down in the beginning of, I think, 2020, so long ago, because it has really gone on a huge journey itself. And you sort of said here I've been one of the Clarke Award directors, and I will say also a thank you to my two co-directors, Stephanie Holman and Dr. Andrew M. Butler, because I'm not the only person on the award. I just tend to be the one who gets volunteered to come and talk on live streams about it. And the award has been running for a long time, but now The Companion is on that route. It's it's multi-year. It's there very much as an absolute kind of essential part of our contemporary 21st century fandom. So congratulations to you both. It's been fantastic following the journey.
Thank you.
My companions, of course.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Well, as you missed when I gave the award to Tom being the tallest ever, I think we missed the applause for Tom. We can
sorry.
We could maybe throw that in later, or you can throw it in now.
that needs big applause, right? It needs the biggest, maybe a whoop applause.
Yeah, there it goes.
Please.
There we go.
Okay, well,
peaked early.
yeah. So for everyone, just a quick rundown of today. We're gonna interview Tom, but at the end, Tom's gonna stay for our next fantasy draft, essentially. And actually, Tom is so excited for the fantasy draft. He almost just wants to jump straight there, but we're gonna make him hold on to his choices, so we can learn a bit more about science fiction, publishing, novel writing, etc.
What Lawrence is really saying here is, in our green room preamble before we came on live, is that I may have over-egged my choices slightly in an effort to possibly freak him out and make him rethink his choices. So now he needs the next hour or so, however long we're going to talk, to reconfigure based on whether I'm bluffing and have really good selections, or whether I forgot we were going to do this and I'm in fact secretly Googling on a separate screen to come up with some options live, as it were. We'll only find out later.
Tom, I think you're the kind of person that would have been preparing 3 or 4 weeks ago when we were talking about this. That's all I could gather.
I feel like I heard mumblings of preparing 3 or 4 weeks ago at this point. So
I think technically I was ready before you sent me the actual topic. It was more I have that, which and then narrowing it down was the work. But we'll see where we go.
Okay. Okay, well, all will
Anyway.
be revealed in about 54 minutes or so. But yeah, I wanted to start with young Tom, and I seem to remember you have a pretty like interesting story about like how you originally got involved in the Clark Award, I guess nearly 2 decades ago. And yeah, if you can talk about that.
Well, that's a young Tom, and then there's there's something that, because we talked a little bit about what we're going to talk about. And that's a question that's really fascinated me in terms of we'll get to sort of older, grown-up Tom becoming the award. But something that I'd love to know from you both as well, and also from anyone in the chat in the comments, is when did you realize you were a fan? When did you really realize you like science fiction? This is something that's kind of obsessed me recently, which is why I want to talk about this. Because as I was thinking about all of these choices for the thing that we're going to do in a minute, top five, thank you, top 5 epic rides, and I was really thinking about like, how long have I been a science fiction fan? And I can't remember a time when I was not a science fiction fan. I can't remember, when I get into it. Do we become fans, or were we born fans? I guess the question is it nature or nurture? Is it all of these? Because I certainly remember as a really young person playing with Legos, of course, playing with Lego, but it was space Lego that drew me in, and it was certain types of comics. It was Star Wars, of course, back in the time, and all of these kind of things. But I don't remember any of that being conscious. Certainly, my parents weren't hugely into science fiction, all this kind of stuff. So I will talk about getting into the award in a second. But I'd love to know,
yeah, let's talk about young Tom. Yeah, 5-year-old Tom.
When did you become science fiction fans? Do you remember? Was it later in life, or did it just arrive as you arrived into our universe?
Wells, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first. Definitely was probably always there, but I do have like a recognizable moment when I realized, oh, this is my entire personality, like that sort of feeling. And I used to say it was when I discovered a Star Trek: The Next Generation marathon one day on television. But I think ultimately it was right after that when I went, I want more of all of this. And I was probably I think I was in 6th grade. So it was maybe 12 years old. And I went to the bookstore and I chose Isaac Asimov's Foundation as the book that I wanted. And I think it was in reading that book, that was me going, oh, no, I like all of this. So I think it was Asimov's Foundation. I remember that copy, the paperback, like the mass market paperback that I had, that I wrote my name on the pages, and everything instead. But yeah, that was probably the moment for me that I realized that I could acknowledge that was a huge part of me. Yeah.
How old do you think you were then?
So I was probably 12. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
I mean, because I'd grown up watching Star Wars, and we, all of that stuff was around, but it wasn't until that moment, I think, like Tom was asking, when did you realize you were, or something? And I think it was a sci-fi fan coming out, if you will, was probably for me Asimov. Yeah.
I want to know Lawrence's answer. There's some great answers coming in the comments, though. Thank you, everyone. I'm genuinely fascinated by this question, by the way. So this isn't market research. I'm not going to share it anyway. This is just, it's been such a huge part of my life, both personally and professionally. I'm just really interested in how people became interested. 8 years old, just yes, absolutely. Lawrence.
So interestingly, yesterday we were actually all talking about, we did a sound check yesterday, and I was looking at the Roddenberry Foundation, and they have different fellowships and different applications, and one of the questions is, what is your relationship with Star Trek? And it got me thinking. I remember when I was really young, the original series was being replayed. So I must have been 6, 7, 8, and I remember there was this older, this older grandpa. He wasn't my grandpa, but we called him my yaya, and I actually talked about this in the application. And he would watch it all the time. So I would watch it with this other older gentleman. He was just renting a room in our house at the time. And so that's like the earliest that, and I don't know if you classify Transformers as like sci-fi. I mean, Cybertron. We can get into
No, I want to find out because I have props. So I mean,
You do?
for me, I mentioned the Lego, the Star Wars, and that kind
He's
of thing.
brought props.
I
Yeah,
think props.
okay.
So Transformers for me, Lauren.
Yeah.
I always think we all have Star Wars, but for me, so this is issue 1 of the UK's Transformers comic.
Whoa. Okay.
Now, I
Yeah.
have every issue. And, and they're right next to me. They are all literally just over there out shop. I put that carefully back in a box.
Wow.
And this was my first kind of, I think, arriving fully formed in fandom, because I only got into this by chance. I loved all science fiction songs. This is one thing I got in on. Feel like I got in on the ground floor because I happened to be ill off school that week, and my mum went to the local newsagents to buy a selection of comics for me to be ill in bed at like age 8 or something like this. And it happened to be the week that issue 1 of Transformers was out. I had no idea what it was. I hadn't seen the toys. It was all like really just coming. And clearly I had quite a virus as well, because it just opened up. My brain basically absorbed Transformers.
Yeah.
Whatever was going on there. So Transformers was like the thing for me. And if someone wants to be really kind of geeky later and zoom in behind me, you'll see a bunch of core class Transformers on the bookshelf behind me.
Yeah.
That's not changed. That was my one. And is it science fiction? I don't know. We'll get on to what is science fiction, won't we?
We'll get onto that.
We're probably going to get into that.
Yeah.
But certainly that was my fandom at age 8 and my fandom at age 48.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Oh,
There you
totally. Yeah.
Totally.
So I just distinctly remember as a child, we used to have this kind of comfortable, uncomfortable brown sofa, and I would lie on it, and I would watch, Transformers and Optimus Prime. And I don't know why it is so clear to me, actually, this one moment. And then I fell asleep, and then I woke up, and a long part of the episode had passed, but it was Optimus Prime kind of on both sides, pre and post nap. But I bring all of that up because I don't even think I would have classified myself as a sci-fi fan, or I didn't really think about being a sci-fi fan until maybe The Companion, if I'm being honest, 35, 40 years later. I just kind of looked back and started to think, well, what are my favorite movies or TV shows? Because I don't know if I used to go into it thinking, oh, I want this sci-fi thing, or I don't know. I just sort of went into the thing. It just tended to be sci-fi. I don't know if that makes me a bad sci-fi fan, if you will. But
no,
yeah.
Like I said, this is a question without judgment, and more brilliant comments coming in. By the way, whoever's saying Battlestar Galactica there. I secretly prefer Battlestar Galactica, the original 70s one, to Star Wars, I think. Not because it was better, because it wasn't, but because it was on weekly and you could watch it. And it was, so how we find this stuff is important. And there is a rationale for me asking you this, actually, and talking about this, because talk about the companion, especially the companion's mission now in terms of how we're talking about being positive within fandom and mental health and all of those kind of things. Because fandom is a huge place, but it's also hugely disparate. There is so much now. I remember you had to find science fiction, and now it streams to you endlessly, and you can't finish it. And then you get halfway through, and then they cancel it or whatever. But there's so much. It's so huge now, and perhaps that was a Star Wars moment in popular culture, and we decide when that happened another call, another time. But there is so much fandom and there's so much science fiction that actually it's entirely possible for us all to be consuming completely different media of our choices, whether it's books, films, and so on, and never ever actually, as they say in Ghostbusters, cross the streams, right? And and I think it's really important that actually we kind of remember why we all like it at all, rather than just what we like and why we like it and why our thing is better than your thing and everything like that. So that's something that's always been really exciting for me about the journey that the companion's been on, and it's why I'm really enjoying everyone chatting in the I could be looking at the comments and go, yeah, me too, yeah, Star Wars, absolutely. My first Star Wars figure was Boba Fett. I remember my mum taking me into the shop. I don't know why they say you could have one figure, and I decided for ages because it's the original figures as well, and some were not.
You don't have the action shooting one that is like auctioning for $125,000 now these days, do you?
No, I have to I still have it. I haven't got it as a prop. It's back to it, but the really worn off paint off the chest plate version with all the floppy limbs because I played with him so much.
Okay.
But I decided he was the best figure because he had a jetpack an awesome, cool space armor or whatever. But he was a villain. And I remember at the time thinking, yeah, he's a villain, but he's too cool. So in the school playground, we would play Star Wars, and I would make us all role reverse. So all the villains became heroes, and all the heroes became villains. So I could be Boba Fett, basically. You know, and
you were just writing the story to the Mandalorian. You were just so ahead of your time.
I was miles ahead. They got my my fan letter, obviously.
Yeah.
I don't think I even knew who Boba Fett was. I just thought he was the most valued for toy if I was only allowed one.
I mean, that's fair. That's totally fair. Yeah.
Anyway, that's one question. So I was going to talk to you about how I got involved with the Clerk Award. Should I still do that?
well, why don't we stick to you early, Tom? Which is, how have you thought about, I guess your relationship to science fiction? Has it changed over the last, I don't know, 30, 40 years, 50 years, or 40 years, or I don't know.
No, it's an absolutely essential part of my life, if you like. It's something I just enjoy in so many different kind of levels. From the, I don't want to say trashy. I'm going to say trashy because I think we all know what I mean. The guilty pleasures, the fun, science, through to the really serious literary kind of ends, the dystopic, the novels that kind of really actually have a cultural impact of a level like, say, something like Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, which, spoiler alert, was the first ever winner of the Arthur C. Clarke Award.
Yeah.
And almost destroyed the award because everyone went, well, that's not a science fiction book. That's does Margaret say she's writing science fiction? Oh, the fights, and they all took weeks as well because everyone was writing to a letters page at the time rather than instantly slagging each other off on social media. So, this would go on for years, these kind of arguments. But no, my natural sort of love of science fiction has not really changed. And in fact, I've always tried to maintain that kind of positivity to it. And one of the joys of being award director for so long is actually you can't actually get involved in the arguments. Our mission is kind of very much about positive promotion of science fiction in all its forms. That's actually one of our kind of mission statements, if you like, other than simply choosing the winning book every year. We want to be a positive force within the space. And something I've massively enjoyed is actually the opportunity to not get stuck into subreddits or tweets or blogs or something arguing things over, because I'm not allowed to. It's part of the, we're not there to pick fights and say you should like our book rather than your book or whatever that is. We're there to say we think this is really good, you should check it out. And that's been a sort of a cornerstone of my professional career with the award and elsewhere as well. I'm working in comms and marketing. My job, if you boil everything out I do down, it's basically to say, someone's just said Red Dwarf. Yes, absolutely Red Dwarf as well. Totally
Red Dwarf.
Total sidetrack. But I've lost my thread slightly. I think what I was trying to say is it's been an absolute joy for me to just be a part of the science fiction space in a way where I don't feel like I need to kind of be arguing for something or getting involved in the sort of the negative toxicity of certain areas of fandom.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to define your definition of science, of what science fiction is, or have you ever dared to? Or
great question. So the good thing is, I actually have other people to define it for me.
Perfect answer.
We have judges. No, this is how we do it in the Clarke Award. So people will come to us from time to time and say, you don't have a definition of science fiction, right? We look at your shortlist, we look at your winners, and one year it's like this, and it's all, it's set in space, it's classic science fiction. And the next year it looks borderline fantasy. Make your minds up, Clarke Award. But Arthur himself was very much one of the things when the award was first being formed. He was obviously delighted to have an award named after him. But the one thing he was very clear on is that the award should not in any way be an award for books that looked a bit Arthur C. Clarke-like or something. He wanted the definitions of science fiction to be tested and changed. And so we don't have a single definition of science fiction. When we put out a call for submissions to publishers, we're quite specific that we're looking for lots of different things. And our guideline is we can't judge it as science fiction or not with our judges unless you put it in a box and mail it to us. So you'll see things on our submissions list that might be, to your taste, pure fantasy, or kind of just there's a little bit of science fiction on page 450, right at the end, or something like that. You know, you pull back the curtains. Oh, it's on a spaceship the whole time. That's not ever actually happened. That would be a terrible end for a book, but you get my point.
Don't do that, anyone.
You're giving people ideas now.
Well, we're talking about Red Dwarf. That was actually originally one of the ideas that the BBC wanted for Red Dwarf, because they were so terrified of science fiction, is that the idea that it would be set in a classic sort of like living room sitcom setup, and only later would it pan out and you'd realise you're on a spaceship. Whereas obviously the opening credits is literally pan out and he's definitely cleaning a spaceship, and they went right against that, and it's been hugely popular. So, you know,
yeah. And then in the end, it was a dream. No.
Another classic ending.
Another classic. Yeah.
But so my point is basically, we want to keep that definition very open, and we have different judges every year on our panel, so that definition shifts naturally year by year. And we also want to make sure that we are keeping up with what science fiction could be. If we defined it, how would we have creativity and innovation within the field? So we want to be able to say, this could be the science fiction, or we pointed at it. Even the author didn't realize they were writing science fiction, but their publisher put it in a box by mistake, and now we've shortlisted it. So, you're ours now for life. And what we haven't seen over the years, there used to be a lot more of a divide between sort of literary publishing and science fiction publishing, where people say they're in one camp or the other. And a while ago now, we definitely saw new generations of people coming in onto editorial, authors who, whilst they're writing in perhaps more literary imprints, that's where their work was being published, they all grew up watching Doctor Who and Red Dwarf and all this, you know, kind of stuff. And it's an absolute part of their lives as much as it is for us, you know. So it's where they're choosing to express that artistically and creatively. They might have many other influences as well, but certainly it's part of that kind of compost, if you like, that creative kind of juices is in there. So do we define science fiction worlds?
No, and I don't.
No, we do. We define it every year differently. Is the answer?
Yes. I was just going to say, I can imagine over the decades, as technology has leapt so far in advance so quickly, especially the last 20 years or so, it feels to me like science fiction naturally would have to have a broader definition nowadays. Than it was very clear what science fiction was before, like, the boom of technology, you know, that we have now. It feels like it was much more very like there was a distinction or something, and nowadays who the heck knows? Like, it just feels it feels like it should be more amorphous and defined, you know, by different people in different ways.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Mark.
Oh no, I was just wondering, like, taking that thought further. For example, let's say in 5 years from now, we actually meet aliens. Then alien stories aren't science fiction anymore; they're just fiction, right? Like, that's by its very definition. Is that how that would work?
I think they would still. Who knows? I mean, yeah.
I'd like to think we've got bigger things to talk about if that happens. Then, oh no, what has that done for that section of Waterstones?
Yeah. Yeah, Tom, you'd be in trouble. You know, we invent time travel. It's just another story.
I would gladly wrap up the award if we got to that. Like, we're done. You know, science fiction is finished now. Time traveling aliens have arrived. You know, we've done all of them, and they're robots. Every single kind of science fiction archetype arrives in one go. That's fine. You know, let's see what they're writing. We'll do a new award.
Yeah.
Let's see what, you know, kind of.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Arthur would be delighted with that. If we said that you know, the Stargate opened. You know, here is extraterrestrial life. Thankfully, it's peaceful. Let's see what happens next.
Are we allowed to ask about what happened with The Handmaid's Tale then, or that's like a? Oh no, it's still too hot. Yeah.
Yes, almost. The award is coming up on its 40th anniversary. It's still a hot topic. I mean, it's basically where things are built up. And Margaret Atwood made some quite famous comments at the time about science fiction being squids in space and all of this kind of thing, which I have a very particular take on, because Margaret Atwood is a huge science fiction fan, and she has a particular definition to your question. Well, it's different from mine, but for her, science fiction is very much the pulps. That's what she loves. She loves the kind of the classic science fiction, if you like. And her only argument was, I'm not writing that, I'm writing in the dystopic mode, and everything in The Handmaid's Tale is actually drawn from something that has happened in real life. I have merely mixed them together and extrapolated. Many people now are going, isn't science fiction extrapolation? I go, yes, it is. And this is where the argument's kind of getting, or it can be. But I think at the time there was quite a reaction of, oh, the Clarke Award's ignoring the core of the genre. It's this new award, everyone's eyes are on it, and it's given the book to somebody who's not even a UK writer, they're a Canadian writer. What's it doing? It's not recognizing what it's doing. And it kept changing modes. A few years later, it had a almost magic realist novel win. It's done climate change in the 80s. You know, we're unfortunately ahead there, because it would have been great if that book was like wrong, but no, unfortunately. And everything, if you go and look at our almost 40 years of shortlist, you'll see massive space operas. You'll see kind of near future dystopia, even happier novels, not just dystopias, that kind of thing. So the range is hugely there. But Margaret is definitely a huge science fiction fan, and I know this because she told me, clang, name drop, when there was a science fiction exhibition at the British Library, and I had the honour of being the person not on the film when she was doing a to-camera piece about how much she loved science fiction in the exhibition. And I'm the person who's edited out, going, so what do you think of this in the thing? And then she talks, and then they edit me out. But she had someone to talk to, so I'm behind the camera saying, oh, this is lovely, isn't it? Let's talk about the pulps. And she did. Tom's binned. I knew this would happen, by the way. It might sound like I'm bitter. British Library, it was a fantastic exhibition. We also got that year's winner into that exhibition. They basically saved us a space before they opened it, and because we couldn't tell him who it was going to be because we didn't know. And you would walk into the exhibition that opened just after we'd announced the award, and there was a copy of Zoo City by Lauren Bucas. Was the year that was there, so it's our 25th year. And you know, we were thrilled with that, and that's how, you know, through that relationship, I had to have this very random conversation with Margaret Atwood, of which 50% exists, but not my bit. Anyway, so long story short, Margaret Atwood, huge science fiction fan, and the award has moved well beyond that particular controversy into controversies new.
Okay.
And probably still more to
come. Well, then if we go back to the original question, I guess I kind of jumped ahead myself. How did you get involved with the Arthur C. Clarke Award?
So it does actually come back sort of to The Handmaid's Tale, which is something that I studied at college, and had all of these kind of arguments about, is it science fiction, is it not, with around the table in school, with our students and teachers and so on and so forth. And so that was kind of my first touch point, although I didn't know it had won at the time, but I kind of got in there. My day job primarily is in the arts and cultural sector. It used to be at the time anyway. I'm now more in higher education and medtech, which is a whole other story we're not going to go into today. But basically my job, as I said, is to point at things that are cool and say, you should check this out. So whether it's a theatre show or a gallery exhibition, and this is kind of where I came from. And I was doing this job and also writing for a kind of Time Out style magazine at the time where I lived, kind of talking about, kind of doing reviews and so on. So where I was getting my first bylines and this kind of thing outside of my day job. And on this magazine, I was doing nightclub reviews and by sort of things. A Clarke Award winner by the name of Colin Greenland was writing for this magazine as well. This is in Cambridge in the UK. He wasn't writing anything about science fiction. He was doing a beer review column, but also other kind of reviews of live shows and so on. And through this, Colin was coming to the venue that I represented as a guest to do a review, and I had him on the guest list on our press list. I went home and they lost the list, and he turned up and he was not on the guest list, and I got a call going. No. And because I knew him as a science fiction fan, I go, you can't not let Colin in. So I live around the corner, so I ran to apologise, and we got chatting about beer and reviews and science fiction. He was a Clarke Award winner. He wrote this classic novel, Take That Plenty, science fiction novel of the year, Clarke Award winner. Signed by Colin. I told you I had props, right?
I love it.
But this is literally how it began. By mistake is the answer, because of a random error of someone else not putting them on the list for something. And so we ended up going to the pub and having some chats, and we ended up hanging out and talking about science fiction. And I talked about my interest in it, and I was probably trying to write something at the time. And Colin introduced me to more people in the fandom in the space. Organizations like the British Science Fiction Association, for example, which I ended up joining and being a member of. And is an organization that's tied to the award, nominates judges every year for us, and has done since we were first formed. So I kind of got involved in that kind of thing, doing more interviews with authors, mostly so I could meet them for their magazines and this kind of thing. And slowly, being young and stupid, got spotted by other people who were trying to like quit roles and get out of their voluntary fan kind of spaces, that maybe I could do this. And the person who was one of the sort of directors of the award at the time asked me if I would like to take it on. And I'd just been asked by the BSFA, the British Science Fiction Association, to be a judge that year. So I was like, I can't be a judge. Sorry, I'm now going to go and run it. So I never got to be a judge. Which I sort of regret, and also don't regret, because every year we've increased the number of books coming in. We used to get 45, 50 books, and now we get 120. So actually, I'm quite glad I never got to be a judge. But on the other hand, I took that on. And that's how I got involved, basically, by being a member of the fandom, but as a fan, then becoming more actively involved, and then being of use and volunteering my time, and then being someone who probably could get something done. And I imagine, although I don't really know, that I was kind of like spotted as someone who did stuff, because I had that arts and marketing cultural background, where basically you have no money, but you really cool stuff to promote. That's exactly like the award. We have no money, but really cool stuff to promote. So there's probably some synchronicities there. And I originally said I'd do it for 5 years. I was given a piece of advice. I had to go to my full-time employer at the time. There was something in my contract that said, you need to check with us if you want to do things like outside of work. So I was like, well, I'm not getting paid. It's a voluntary thing, but, I'm just checking this with you. And my boss at the time basically said, this is great. You can totally go off and do this. It's amazing. Don't do any work hours, obviously, but you can do this. And also, perhaps a piece of advice was useful for other people trying to get into spaces, like, as well as getting in, know how to get out. Decide what you want to do and be thinking about leaving, not because you want to get out of it, but be thinking about stepping away and not becoming something where you begin to feel that it's something can't exist without you, which can be quite negative, especially in sort of voluntary spaces where people kind of accumulate stuff around them and areas of responsibility and knowledge, and then they become so integral. If there are issues you can't unpack from that kind of stuff, and you're dealing with not salaried HRable stuff, but where people are giving their time for free. So that was something I kind of learned, and I thought about it in other areas of my career. The problem was that Sir Arthur passed away before my 5 years were up. And with that, our funding disappeared. And suddenly, as the new kid on the block, the award was over. My first year was its 20th year. I was faced with the possibility that it would shut on my watch.
Oh, no. Yeah.
Which was kind of scary. And, I just built up my personal reputation in this space. And there's Tom. You'd say at a convention, he's the guy who shut the award. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work. So I had to save it. Which we did. We changed the business model. Year on year, we sort of became stronger and stronger. We launched up there. We thought we wouldn't. The 25th year at one point, it looked like we might close. And, we could. That was the year of the British Library exhibition, but we thought quarter century. If we can't get bigger, if we can't keep going, maybe we need to kind of at least take a year off, let something else emerge, whether it's got the same name or it becomes something different, or in fact gives way for something that a new award that's more reflective of science fiction 25 years on, a fundamental change. Fortunately, that we were successful in saving the award, coming up on our 40th in 2026. So we made it work, but that was the worry at the time, and that's kind of why I'm still.
We need applause for that. Well,
I'm working on it.
We need applause right now.
I was flipping over from the comments. It takes a second.
I will collectively take the applause on behalf of many people who contribute to that, across our other directors, across the publishing industry, which is hugely acknowledging of the fact that they saw value in what we were doing and helped us survive. And the people who come to our events every year, the other people who give the time for free, write stuff for us, do whatever it is. So it wasn't me, but we did do it. and we're in a really good place here. You know, this might resonate with you both, Lawrence and Wells, in terms of what you're building with the companion and so on. As a very small organization, we kind of felt like we had like one chess move a year where we could do one thing. So we've slowly moved. So one year we would put out an anthology, one year we did a conference, one year we like did a rebrand, and so, but we couldn't do two because we were doing this in lunch breaks and evenings and weekends and so on. So we kind of like slowly paced ourselves, but with my eye ever more on 2026 and look now 40th basically, and then obviously 50th, and
Oh yeah.
I might let someone else take the reins for the 100th.
So every few months, like around maybe a month or two before this, but whenever I email you or message you, you know, I get a message like, I'm really busy right now. I can't respond until after, you know, the award nomination or the announcements and et cetera. Can you kind of walk us through that process of almost like the calendar year of, you know, the Clerk Award and how that works?
Yep, absolutely. So we announced our winner in July. I had a weekend off, and then we started working out like who were going to be our judges and trying to lock that in, because we can't open until we know really basically what their address is to send the books out. So we can't ask publishers to start sending us stuff. So it all kind of goes. Obviously, we didn't start that. Go, oh, should we get some new judges after, you know, the morning after we open the envelope? We are working on this all the time, but it is a year-on kind of like cycle in terms of award delivery itself. And then there's the other stuff that we're trying to do in terms of kind of that brand growth, that sustainability of the organization itself, and working with other projects, whether it's directly or whether it's, as I'm saying in the beginning, going to the pub with Lawrence and having a chat. But this is great for me because I kind of said, I think it works like this. Lawrence bought the beer, and then I went home and he had to do all the work. So that was an easy one for me. But that's kind of that's everything that we're trying to do sort of simultaneously, because we like to give as much time as we can to the broader space. And you know, if there's advice that we can give to other awards, or you know, connecting things up, putting people in touch, that kind of thing is something we try and do as much as we can. So we just open for submissions, and what that means is we email publishers and we say, send us books, and they've got until the 31st of December to put those in boxes. And some publishers are great at this, and some forget, and some kind of go, oh, I didn't even realize that was science fiction, even though, you know, it's got a spaceship on the cover or something. And staff change every year, and there's a lot of there's a lot of logistics and administration. So talking to people, a lot of phoning people up, going, send us that, and they go yes, and then you phone them a month later and go, could you actually send us it, and so on and so on. And the judges are all this time. So that's our bit. That's the administrative side of things. And as the books are coming in, our judges are obviously reading them, and they're reading them separately. They're wherever they've come from, whether they're fans, whether they're academics, whether they're professionals, they're writers. You know, they've even nominated writers, even winners of the award in the past have been part of this. So we consider them all as experts because they've been nominated by our supporting organisations, which currently are the British Science Fiction Association that I mentioned, and Science Fiction Foundation, who've been with us since the beginning, and the Sci-Fi London Film Festival also nominate a judge for us every year. So 5 judges in total. An odd number to make sure that if there is a vote, we don't get an even split.
There you go.
And so they'll be reading, and more importantly, they'll be talking to each other as we go. We have regular meetings and calls during that judging process. We had one just last weekend before any books had arrived, and that was our conversation for our judges to sort of meet each other. A judge will typically do 2 years. They don't have to be consecutive years. They can come back many years later. They don't have to come back. We like it when they do, because it means they've had fun. And so our second-year judges are handing over to new judges. We're talking about that. And we're answering that question. Is it, you know, what is science fiction to you? Why are we here? What are we, you know, what do you want to do? And a lot of people will think, will look at an award and say, oh, last year they did this. The judges did this. The judges. Like this is sort of amorphous blob. The judges did this.
Is it so kind of like the scene from American Fiction? Because that's the only thing I can imagine.
Yeah, it's so much. It's more fun and nicer because we make it clear that we from an HRing perspective, we make it quite clear that we want all of our judges to get on, and you know, it's not as satirically awful as the American Fiction scene, although that did resonate. But what we try and do, we ask them to talk to each other as they're going all the time to keep that conversation going. So there's a lot of email threads around particular books and where people are at and this kind of thing. So the one way it does difference from American fiction is it's an ongoing dialogue rather than people around the table. But eventually we do all get around the table, and there's a time limit, and we narrow them down to 6 books.
Wonderful.
Only 6. And
cool.
unlike the Booker Prize, we also make it clear you can't have 2 winners, because often judges will go, we can't decide, 6 books. Maybe we should have 7. No. Because then you give them 7 and they go, oh, but there's this one. Maybe it's 8. And then it stretches. Or maybe we should have a long list. Well, how long?
All of a sudden opens it all up. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're quite strict on that way, but in a nice way. It's nice and strict. And 1 winner.
No, I love it because when we were, I was trying to write up the bio and I was kind of researching winners and this and that. And I wanted to put like kind of Neil Stephenson on there because he's quite famous and obviously for Snow Crash. And I was like, oh, only nominated? Like what happened? And then I looked like, oh, because Vert won that year. And so you just, sometimes you have years where just
a prop. We talked about Vert. We come there. It's Snow Crash versus Vert. So 2 classic science fiction novels, but cyberpunk novels even, or cyberpunk in the 90s rather than 80s. So this is my original copy of Vert. Signed by Jeff Neen. And the reason I mention this, I'm going back to how did I get involved. It's before I knew about the award, but very small. You won't be able to see this. It says winner of the 1994 Arthur C. Clarke Award. And this is the first time when I bought this book that I'd ever heard of the Clarke Award. This is I've got a topic, but I had a prop moment, so I've jumped on it. So I'm a huge cyberpunk fan. William Gibson is one of my favorite authors, for example. And so when I started hearing the buzz about Vert, obviously I had to go and check it out. And I remember distinctly being in the store where I bought this book and turning it over and going, oh, it's won the Arthur C. Clarke Award. It must be good. I wonder what that award is. I'd never heard of it. Yeah. And in my head, I pictured this huge Oscars-like ceremony, sweeping searchlights, red carpets. And Lawrence, you've been. So it's a good party, right? But we're not quite that big budget. So it has changed. But that was the first time, that was that little moment. So I was talking about the Margaret Atwood moment, the Vert moment, then the moment with Colin, which came later, because I bought Vert at university. And so slowly it does feel like the universe has been leaving breadcrumbs, sort of leading me towards this award for good or ill. So that's my original paperback of Vert there. And it reminded me to ask you, Wells, actually, do you still have that Foundation copy that you mentioned?
I think it's in a storage unit somewhere, but with my name written on it and everything. Yeah. I'm pretty sure
There's a chance,
I have it.
Tom, it's really just like 80-year-old you, and time travel does exist then. And it's just going back in time, putting these breadcrumbs, in place. Because it's actually just all fiction, or as we established, nonfiction now, not science fiction. That's
what is the one where time's a flat loop or something like that? I don't remember. It's or Interstellar.
But Interstellar, yeah.
Matthew McConaughey is behind that bookshelf right now, like heckling me. Only I can hear him.
He's crying though. He's crying.
Yeah. So there you are. Time is a flat loop. I actually set myself up to be the award director.
That's right.
I still don't know if aliens exist or not. They're on the other side of the gravity well on the black hole. I don't know.
Well, older Tom does. He just can't tell you that.
Yeah. Right? I do know. Yes, you're right.
You do know. Yeah.
Oh, my head hurts. I should have had that there after all.
Yeah. Unless if you're a Tremalfadorian. Tom, maybe we can switch gears to a little bit of writing advice? Would that be?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I think we have a question already, right, Wells, on asking Tom about writing?
We have a writing advice question. We do have an audio question that's more of a regular question for Tom too. So we have two sent in questions.
Yeah, I was gonna do the audio. We could do the audio first before we transition to writing. You want to do that?
Sure.
Let's talk about writing. Yeah. So I think it's probably true that anyone watching, that a lot of people here will have probably wanted to create in some way within the science fiction field. I think that's fair to say. Certainly it's true for me. I found a different calling instead. I certainly know that, and the reason I say this at the beginning is because I think a lot of people have an unfinished novel inside them somewhere. And, it's sometimes you find a different way to really engage, and that's cool too. So Some specific writing advice, though, and this I've stolen from other people, from many of the people I've talked to. So I sort of qualified there. I'm not a writer. I've had a couple of short stories published, but one of them's in an anthology award that I'm an editor of. So that was a bit of a cheat, right? Although I got my co-editor to read it to tell me, like basically, if it's really awful, it doesn't need to go in. But I'd like to be in my own anthology if I can. So other than that, that's kind of my engagement with fiction writing. But as I mentioned, I met Colin Greenland through journalist writing, which is kind of something I thought that I could do. So my first sort of tip there really comes from that kind of space when I was paid by the word. And if you're wherever you're writing, whether it's fiction or non-fiction, this kind of thing, the first thing I sort of learned really is that kind of importance of word count. So I used to get literally paid by the word up to 350 words. So every article I submitted was exactly 350 words, because 351 would be writing for free, but 349 I wouldn't get paid as much as I could. And this taught me editing, basically. So obviously, if you've not been given a work out and you're writing and practicing, what I did to actually develop my journalistic skills was I literally wrote out other articles for places that I was trying to pitch to look at the word count. I count the words, I count the paragraphs, I look at the sentence structure, and I write them out to get this kind of the tone and this kind of thing. And that works really well for journalism, but it also really works, I think, for practicing as a writer. Something else I've done, not so much now, because it's not really my kind of where my career went. But I would certainly recommend, if you're trying to find your own tone of voice, you're inevitably going to have to write out all of your favorite authors from yourself first. Everyone has to go through this process. If I tried to write something now, it would probably read like Bert, right? Or whatever it is. I'm picking Bert as an example. So I've got to write through that. And a good way to actually do that, whether it's writing an article or something else, take a short story, take a paper, and really actually copy it out. Have it printed out in front of you, write it. Not try and write in its style, not try and write its storyline, but actually write it and see how your author really creates the effects that they're trying to write. You might say, oh, I should be writing on my own stuff. These are writing exercises. This is craft. This is learning stuff. And it's something just I personally found really, really useful, because we all have an idea of the effects that a book will have on us. But when you look at what's actually there, you'll realize that a lot of it's going on with us, the reader, and what we're creating into that space, what we're inferring, rather than the literal words on page. And for my sins, I did a little bit of slush reading once for agencies, so reading the submissions. And you'd see a lot of really terrible stuff. A lot of it, for some reason or another, was always Douglas Adams inspired, just in that kind of comedy tone of voice that Douglas Adams does amazingly well, but no one else can do. And I mean, it's hard, because if you read his jokes, they're really quick. There are multiple ones on a page. And if you read people trying to write in what they think is the style of Douglas Adams, the joke would go on for pages to get to the point. So my advice there was, if you want to write like Douglas Adams, actually write Douglas Adams out until you've got it out of your system and learn how he does it and learn how he doesn't do it. Copying, basically stealing. Do this. It's an exercise. This is something I would definitely recommend.
Just to clarify, you mean like as you're reading a chapter, you're literally writing it out, or?
No, I mean, you've got your own idea. This is a writing exercise, I'd suggest. And I did it for journalism because I was pitching places. I wanted to know exactly how long their articles were and really write them something on spec that looked exactly like something they'd already published. Okay.
Yeah.
So if they were writing, if it had 4 paragraphs in it, I would send them something with 4 paragraphs in it. If it was 800 words, they would get 800 words.
Right. Okay. I see.
But then I personally translated that into fiction writing exercises and think, well, if I copy out a short story, let's say it's Burning Chrome by William Gibson, which is an amazing short story. And huge amount of fans of that story. You write that out there. Gibson is really well known for his effects. So if you're writing in the Gibson style, it's really quite obvious. But you want to learn how he actually does it, not the effect it creates in your brain. Having a version of it in front of you, typing it out manually, slowly, taking the time to get it on a word by word, sentence by sentence level is hugely valuable. You'll learn pace, you'll learn structure, you'll learn dialogue. Where does it all fit? It's not taking the ideas, it's taking the actual. In the same way, I would actually recommend, and this is what a lot of other authors will do when they're doing a rewrite, is they'll have a printed copy and they'll retype it rather than editing in a manuscript. A lot of people don't do this, but certainly the literal kind of going through, having to get it into it in the word by word, sentence by sentence level in order is a very different editorial experience than shifting paragraphs around or tweaking endlessly inside of an online document.
That's really
Taking
interesting.
time and pace.
Yeah. Because sorry, I'm gonna share a little story about myself as well. So I used to work in advertising, like hardcore billboard TV commercial advertising, right? For those of you that don't know. And it was weird because when I got into the industry, I was an older, more experienced person. I had already finished like my MBA from Oxford, and that's how I got in. And so they put me into the strategy department, and I didn't know how to be an advertising strategist. I've never done it before. And in advertising, we call it a planner. I've never been a planner before. And I've also never been warned by like a boss, you're doing a really bad job. You need to like get better really fast. And so I asked him, like genuinely, you hired me in as a senior strategist, a senior planner. I have like 1 year's work experience in advertising. I don't know the language. I don't know the fundamentals. You know, can I practice writing briefs? Because that's basically your job as a planner, to write these briefs on what the ads would become. And then can you review them for me? And he said, no, I won't do that. Like, I'm way too busy. You just got to go figure it out yourself. And so one of the things that I did was I grabbed something called the Gun Report, which is a giant thick book of all of the best ads around the world. And I remember looking at these ads in detail and then writing a brief that would be able to produce this piece of work. And distinctly, I remember there was an ad in Brazil where there was a bunch of bunny rabbits all around. And they were all kind of frolicking and playing together and a little sexual, because it was a condom ad that won in Brazil. And I remember that was one of the ones that I rewrote the brief to. Now, I have no idea if the brief was any good. No one ever really reviewed it for me. But I think it's kind of the same thing as, Tom, like what you're saying, right? Which is practice the
Absolutely.
thing that gets to the thing that you need to get to. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's craft at the end of the day. You know, a well-crafted story is probably going to be better than one with an original idea that's terribly written, just from a pure practical commercial kind of point of view. And actually, Lawrence, I had exactly the same experience in my marketing job. Simply, well, not exactly, but writing client marketing proposals. So this is what your campaign is going to look like. And my boss at the time, you know, I was new in learning how to write to their formula. I would bring them something and say, I've kind of done it as much as I can, and now you can tell me where it's gone wrong. And she said, I'm very busy, just like your boss. I'm very busy. Like, bring me the completely perfect version, and then I'll tear it apart. You know, you do it. You know, don't leave gaps. Basically, you're not allowed to go, oh, and then we'll fill it in together. It's like, no, you've got to write it. Then I'll tell you why you're wrong. And if you're wrong consistently, I'll tell you why you're fired. But you've got to finish it. And actually, let's come bring that back to fiction writing. And a lot of people talk about the need to finish. You know, finishing can be staged, but you can't submit half a story to a publisher. You've got to finish a draft. You've got to do that. And those kind of things are important, I think. So that's another. You've heard this piece of advice before, but really, it's always going to come around. Two other quick pieces of advice. I think if you're really serious about writing fiction, the novel, these kind of things, or the screenplay, whatever it is, this kind of thing, whatever you're trying to do in this kind of perspective, you've got to realize that somewhere you're going to have to make a choice, and something else in your life is going to have to go, I think. An analogy I use with people I mentor, this kind of thing, is you know, it's like going to the gym. If you're going to the gym every day, you're giving up not only that hour in the gym or however long you're there, but the time to get there, the time in the changing room, and all of the travel and all of those kind of things. And that's absolutely fine. But you're definitely not watching Netflix. You can only have one or the other, and it's the same. And I think people often kind of like, I'm going to fit it in, I'm going to cram it in. It's going to take time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And people can often feel like quite sprinting because I'm excited and then burnt out. If this is a calling, if this is your career, you will be starting at the bottom, you know, kind of at the beginning with no results. You've literally got a blank page. But if you're going to be doing it for your life, you're going to have to do it every day. You've got to keep enjoying it. No one's going to ask you to sit and write a story necessarily. Well, it might eventually, but not at the beginning. No one's going to give you money, so you've got to pay yourself in other ways, in time and enjoyment. So that's a piece of advice I've learned the hard way. And my final piece of advice is mine. It's from Clerk Award winner Tade Thompson, author of Rosewater, who talks about exactly this kind of thing. A lot of people go, I'll try and do 1,000 words a day, whatever, NaNoWriMo, the sprint. No, says Tade. You can do it forever. 300 words a day. 350 max, right? That's 350, right? That's the length of those articles. It's like it always comes around times the flat circle. But you can do 300 words quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do it in half an hour, then you go and do something else. And if you want to write 3,000 words because we're on a roll, that's great. But you still got to do 300 tomorrow. And Tade's point is if you times 300 words by the number of days in the year, you get a novel. And all right, you can't do that. You can't write every day. That's fine too. Give yourself the weekends, but still eventually you will get there by chipping that in, hitting those word counts bit by bit, consistency, those kind of things. Just the only way to do the writing is to write and then write again and then write again. Or maybe that's the writing.
Yeah.
I love the lower word count advice, because getting to sit with a lower word count for a day versus you just trying to churn things out. I mean, I've tried to churn screenplays out before, let me get like this whole act 1 done in 1 day or whatever. And then it's like, then you go back and look at it and you're like, what did I even write? Like, what did I do? And then I'm just burnt out from that 1 day of trying to do that, instead of breaking it down into more manageable, healthier pieces for myself, basically.
Exactly. I think a lot of people, especially, if you're writing, you're creative, the chances are you're doing something else to pay the rent at this point, right? So, but people tend to think, it's an 8-hour work day. So if I'm writing, I must write for 8 hours. Like, I don't do my day job for 8 hours. Sorry, boss. But, I'm there. But I don't do a thing for 8 hours.
Yeah.
I have to do some email clearance because someone's pestering me for something that I can't be bothered to do. And then I've got to go and have a coffee, and then I've got some meetings about something that someone wants my opinion, but it's not really my area, and that kind of thing. So even if you're 8 hours, I'm still only going to do 350 words of actual copywriting, if I'm writing a press release or something. And then I've got to send it to other people who then have opinions on it, and then I have to rewrite it. So, and that's going to take them a week, and then half my job is chasing them, and so on and so on and so on. So even if you had an 8-hour block to write your screenplay, well, chances are you can do some research, you're going to do some Google fapping, you're going to have a coffee.
Yeah, of course.
Still going to churn it out. So work at it like that way.
Yeah. I think there's some advice that I've got for folks on flossing, because flossing is very hard, but it's exactly Tade Thompson's advice, which is if you want to learn how to floss every single day, give yourself a goal of flossing only 2 teeth a day. Not your whole mouth, not a whole side, just the front tooth, or whatever, front teeth. Because what actually ends up happening is the barrier of entry to completing that daily task is so low. You actually start to feel ridiculous. Like by day 3, why am I only flossing 2 teeth? I might as well do 5 or 6 or 1 side. But exactly like what you said, Tom, sometimes you don't got it in you. Just floss 2 teeth. Yeah.
I mean, that's the gym metaphor again, and I'm not a gym bunny, so I just use it because people can understand it. It's like if you walk in the gym and put your trainers on, and then go and look at all the machines, and they're busy, and you just don't feel it, then you go home. But you've walked in because, as you say, Laura, you're like, I should probably lift something.
Exactly.
I should at least stretch. I should hang out near the water fountain. So but you don't have to do your best set ever. Arnie's not there judging you, so
don't have to PR every single day. No.
It's not. You're not on the set of Predator where they all get up before each other to go and do sneaky weights, so that they were all extra built before the filming sort of kicked in or whatever. You're fine. Come on. But again, if you're in the mode, write 3,000 words.
Yeah.
No one's stopping you. They're going, oh no, here come the word police, 350 a day, or Tom's going to come around and take the extra words away. But there's no point writing 3,000 words one week and then not writing until 2025.
Once someone's written something, so this is a question from Susan from Tasmania. She says, Hi Tom. I have written my first sci-fi fanfic as practice towards writing an original sci-fi novel. I've already begun to write my original novel with loads of science-related study under my belt already, but I'm not sure what direction to pursue once it's finished. Should I self-publish, like many people are choosing to do, or submit the finished work to publishers? I'm based in Australia, so should I pursue an Australian publisher, UK, Europe, or US? I'm very new to all of this, so any guidance would be appreciated.
This is a great, huge question. But first of all, let me just start by saying congratulations on beginning that kind of journey. And actually, fan fiction is not practice. Writing is writing. And if you are writing, you are a writer. Okay?
I like
there's
that.
not a
Yep.
division between the two. You know, I could point just over there as a folder of stuff I wrote at university. I've still got a printout. Some of it's rubbish, right? But I still wrote it, and I'm proud of it. And you're not seeing it, Lawrence and Wells, ever. It's a prop I'm not bringing on stage. So first of all, that's I mean that quite seriously. Now, the question of what to do with it next is something to be thinking about, but I wouldn't try and necessarily think about those goals. You're working on the project right now, and keep on in that. If you want to be kind of exploring the space, explore it as fans, try and understand the space, but that's research. It's not about answering that question, it's just understanding it more. That random journey I just told you about how I got involved with the Clerk Award, you know, that's by putting yourself forward, being part of something that may open those opportunities, may not, but those kind of unknown unknowns that we wouldn't know how to plan for. I mean, I think, why would you not put something out on submission to a publisher? All of the equipment is there, the industry is there to help you be the writer. But definitely the tools there, you say self-publishing, but I would say it's independent publishing. And we actually changed the rules for the Clarke Award here. Again, I want to sort of get rid of some of these distinctions a little bit. As independent publishing became more of a thing where people could do it to a high standard, not just the words on the page, but actually the physical manifestation of a book into reality. It became clear to us that we needed to reconsider these things. And we didn't move first. Other awards started opening up to independent publishing first. But we studied the marketplace and we made a move. And one of the reasons why we did that is because we started to see authors who had been shortlisted on the award experimenting in that space. And we didn't want to be basically saying, well, Jeff Noon, author of Vert, he's an example, self-published the title. We can't turn him down. He won, you know. So we needed to change. And so how we define that now in terms of submissions criteria is by basically saying if you're an independent author, you're a publisher of one. You're your own business model. And I hope you're doing it properly and have a beautiful cover, and maybe you talk to like an editor and those kind of things who will help you on that. And the main thing I would suggest, though, is to be aware of the old legacy industry of vanity publishing. So these are publishers which will take your money in order to manifest the book and give you editorial advice, but a lot of that advice will be very biased to get your money. And we're not open to them because they're a company that are basically probably being slightly editorially dishonest and saying, "Oh, well, Lawrence, you've written a fantastic book here," he says without really reading it. And we see a great opportunity for you to give us money to print some, and then you can do all the work selling it, and we'll take your cash for the physical bit that can easily be done, but we won't do any real work promoting it. Because publishing, the actual industry finds marketing books incredibly difficult, finding the right readers, the right audiences, these kind of things. So someone who's going to take your money is probably not on your best side. So if you're going to independently publish, do it independently. Contract out by all means, you know, for a cover artist, these kind of things, however that works, but don't be lured into that vanity type side of things. Do it yourself. But both are valid, depending on what you want to do in the space, I would say. But that journey will start to become apparent once you finish. If you're working on the project, work on the project. By all means, do research in the same space, but you could be equally doing that research by subscribing to science fiction magazines and those kind of things. Just be part of more of the space. Being part of the companion is part of that research, right? So I'd keep those kind of elements separate for now. And it's also important, once you've finished it, you probably want to let it gestate for 3 months or so in a drawer before you go back to it, right? The one mistake people make on Slush when they submit is to type the end and then put it in an envelope and send it off without, because it's a masterpiece. So you're going to take some time and then see where you get to. And also,
Related-
while you're doing that,
yeah.
while you're submitting, you need to be writing the next one, 350 words a day minimum, or whatever it is. Again, it doesn't have to be every day, but whatever your capacity is, it needs to be consistent. So all of those kind of things are there.
Yeah.
It's a long haul game, basically.
So related to slush piles and rejections, Erica Mama Knox has a question. I've had 7 rejections for my work already. They never say why. Should I take it that my stuff is rubbish?
No, not at all. There are many people who've had many more rejections. There are published successful authors who have more rejections. Now your stuff might be rubbish, but even then, we look at what's published, and our own personal taste will go, that's rubbish, that's not. It's selling loads. These kind of standards are not there. I would definitely say don't try and follow market trends. Write the best that you can write of what you want to write, because publishing is such a slow industry that the market trend you are seeing on the bookshelf this year is already dead. It might last for a long time, but it's already dead. So you've got to be yourself, and you might be rejected because that's not what they're looking for right now. But by the time you write what they said they're looking for, they have changed their mind. So you've got to kind of think about it from the creative point of view first, unless you're on contract and you're churning out something. In which case you're in a different kind of part of the industry. If you're writing tie-in novels, that kind of thing, you're never going to be contracted to write a tie-in novel without having some sort of pedigree in the space already. So
Sure.
If you write a tie-in novel a year, fine. But
Yeah.
That's
I'm definitely in the space of 7 rejections is nowhere near a ton of rejections either. It's on one project, on my current feature film, I'm at 12 rejections and 2 acceptances on film festivals. And it's the same deal of I think it's a really good point of your work might not be exactly what the specific place is looking for at the time. We deal with the issue of feeling like it doesn't quite fit in these genre spaces. So it could be a very similar thing too for writing, but 7 rejections feels like, keep going.
I would
going.
add, because I've gotten rejected many times in my life, like even the companion and fundraising for the companion.
Mhm.
And I think Wells has seen this before, rejected by over 200 investors, right?
Mhm.
Most of them don't tell you reason why, or if they do, it's a very boilerplate
Mhm.
email.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
But the thing is, I do kind of take it personally sometimes, and I know you're not supposed to, and I know it's a numbers game, and I know everything Wells and Tom you just said. So I think all I'm trying to say is to Erica or anyone else, try not to feel personal or bad, but sometimes it doesn't feel good. It really, and hopefully you have a good. No,
it never feels good. It never feels good.
Actually,
No.
That thing of don't take it. Of course, I'm going to take it personally.
Yeah.
Don't reply personally.
No.
Be professional. Of course, you're going to take it, and you might want to give yourself a little bit of grieving time. You might want to think about that. But if you're already working on the next thing, use the companion. The companion is successful. It's not perhaps as successful if 200 other people have funded it. It'd be a very different thing, and your measure of success would also be different. And I think it's always thinking about how you get paid, and I don't mean cash. I mean, how do you pay yourself? How do you get what are your measures of success? How do you? It's those kind of things that keep you going and keep you coming back. Otherwise, rejection does finish you. But if you enjoy the process and you're on that, there are other ways of feeling successful. My first ever article, I wasn't paid any money. I had it said Tom Hunter. It was a review, and I'm prouder of that than other stuff because it was the first.
Yeah.
So those kind of things. When I say paid, like I said, I don't mean money, but think about how you can actually reward and measure success for yourself in spaces that you can't control. You can't control what other people are looking for in the marketplace, all of those kind of things, but you can. There are elements that you can control.
Mm-hmm.
It is fine to feel pissed off when somebody rejects you, though. Don't try.
Every time it's that knee jerk of go.
And I can also say that when I sit in bars and conventions with authors or whatever, the conversation inevitably turns to why, my book wasn't publicized as well as it should have been until the publisher arrives, in which case everyone goes, it's brilliant, thanks so much for your hard work. Or what person over there got paid for the movie rights, what I got paid, and all of that kind of thing. So I guarantee you're not going to win because you'll just be like, did you see what Stephen King got paid?
Yeah.
It's a short story. He didn't even write a whole novel. They got to pay for the rights. That's just not right. I wrote a whole novel. And you're just never going to win by comparing, basically. Figure out how you reward yourself, not looking at what other people are doing in space. I know that's a cliche piece of advice, but it's a cliche for a reason.
Yeah. Okay. We have a couple. We have one. No, we have two like audio-y kind of based questions, right?
Great.
So let's
One
play
audio,
the first.
one video. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, we'll play the first audio question.
Mm-hmm. Give me one second to flip back
Sure,
over
sure.
here. This is from Gemma.
Hi Tom, my question is, do you have a comfort book that you go back to again and again? Hi Tom, my question is...
It's on repeat. Oh goodness. Don't loop it.
You can repeat it because I have more than one comfort book. I'm actually a huge advocate for rereading. I love rereading. I will buy books again in different formats so I can read them again, possibly in a hardback with sprayed edges if it's re-released on an anniversary and this kind of thing.
Nice.
Because I've actually found I'm more likely to reread it if I've bought it again and thus sunk more money into it.
Interesting. Yeah.
That's just, so let's not go into my weird psychology around that kind of thing. But I genuinely think rereading is worth doing, especially if you're a writer. Actually, the first time you read something, it knocks your socks off. The next time you go back, not literally typing it out, that kind of thing. But you start to see so much more of that. So yeah, I reread all the time. I did see a comment that flashed by going, I could never type up Lord of the Rings, Tom, from what you were saying. It's that I didn't mean type out the whole book, right? I meant the scene, a chapter, a short story, perhaps. If you're looking at Lord of the Rings, you want to know how Tolkien does battles, write that bit out. And what you'll find is he doesn't really do battles. He does lots of walking, right? And battles are over in half a page. Same in Dune, the whole bit when they nuke the shield wall. That's half a page, right? Nothing is. We nuked it. We win. The end. Back to talking about spice, and that's what you're learning. Is actually like how those effects are really created, whereas you think it's this huge thing in your mind. What's my favorite reread? It is Neuromancer by William Gibson, which has got to the point now, despite the fact it's like hard-edged neo-noir cyberpunk kind of future gothic almost. I've read it so many times, it's just like sinking into a warm bath. Oh, there they are.
It's the same. My rereads are always the like darkest, grimiest books, and then I'm like, why do I keep rereading Perdido Street Station over and over again?
Another one, right? Another classic. So yeah, there you go. I am about to reread Perdido Street Station actually.
Oh, I love it. It's one of my.
I just bought
the whole all of his books, but yeah.
So that's my answer. You had another question somewhere.
Yeah, I saw one more actually question in the comments from Susan. Can Australians enter awards from other countries, such as the Arthur C. Clarke Award?
Right. It depends on the criteria of the award, is the short answer. For the Clarke Award, it's your publisher that submits rather than you, and you need to be a UK-based publisher. If you're an independent author, we, as a publisher of one, effectively, we have similar criteria where you need to be UK citizen or resident, and that's to make sure that people aren't submitting from all around the world when it's UK based. But if you're a UK publisher, you can live anywhere in the world as long as your publisher is in the UK. And if you look at the Clarke Award, you'll see that its criteria, people in shortlisted for it are from all over the planet, basically. Every award is different. Most of them have some sort of guidelines and that kind of thing. And you can find a lot of details in like places like Writers and Artists Yearbooks and those kind of things. And that kind of thing. So I'm afraid it's not one answer. But...
No, all good. All good. All right. And we have this tradition that we have on the companion where the last guest will ask the next guest a question. So it's really a two-parter ask, which is we're going to play you a question and hopefully you can answer it. And we'll have a little chat and then you can think in the back of your mind on maybe what you want to ask the next guest as well. That's what we ask.
All right. Let's do the first part.
Let's do it.
They say that everybody has a book in them. So what book are you going to write next?
I've already said I don't. That's the problem now. I reconcile myself to the fact that it was probably a 2001 word short story in my own anthology, which was, so the answer was basically for the 100th anniversary of Arthur's birth, we published a short story collection with winners and shortlisted author award, all writing short stories for us that were precisely 2001 words long. That's as gimmicky as you can possibly get. And it came from that. If you give an author a deadline and a word count, they'll probably be faster than if you give them a, hey, write what you like. It takes, kind of. So
Yep.
we basically went, well, we need it by the end of blah, and it's got to be exactly 2001 words long, but it can be on anything you like.
I think
so
I have
a
that
story-
copy of that book upstairs, actually.
Yeah, I think I gave you a book. So I have a 2001 word short story in that, and that is the last thing I wrote. Because I have many unpublished things from my head from previously, but I'm kind of dodging the question, but I hope I'm allowed to, because I run a book award, so my job is really to not give you my book, but to go, here is this year's winner. For example, here is this year's winner. It's not my book though, but you should all go and buy it immediately. In Ascension by Martin McInnes. It's fantastic. I'm a marketing guy. I dodged the question. But the anthology 2001 An Odyssey in Words is available on all online shops and so on. If you want to go and check it out and read how long it took me longer to write 2001 words than other people. Then Adrian Tchaikovsky has a novel out, like in the amount of time it took me to write that short story.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay, Tom. Well,
that's my answer.
yo, thank you. Or you could have answered, the next book I'm going to be writing is the 2026 Arthur C. Clarke Award-winning book. I'm just kidding.
I'll get past 2026 before we even look at anything else. That's going to be a big enough year for us. So do I get to ask a question forward now?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Fantastic. Okay, so hello, future questioner E. My name is Tom Hunter. I'm the director of the Arthur C. Clarke Award for Best Science Fiction Novel of the Year. And Sir Arthur himself is famous for many things, but one of them is his 3 laws. And one of those laws is any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. My question to you is, what technology do you consider indistinguishable from magic in either your personal or professional life, or anything really, and why?
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear the answer to that.
That's just my go-to question for any kind of, I'm stuck now. I tried that in a job interview one time when they say, do you have any questions for us? I go, I do. Arthur C. Clarke said.
Tom, how are you doing on time? You still got time for the draft?
We've gone so fast. I've got some time for the draft, but it might have to be a fast draft. That's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
Let's
try
do
to
it.
a
We can
fast
do it.
draft. Okay. So to let everyone know, we're going to be doing the next fantasy draft. How it's going to be, and it's going to be, the topic is top 5 epic rides. Is that what we kind of talked about that, right? So like famous rides, could be spaceships, could be anything in film,
Rides
television,
being
games,
vehicles,
books.
if anybody doesn't know the slang of rides,
Right.
or is not a
Right.
native English speaker. Yeah.
Yes, we'll be traveling, I suppose. It's gonna be a snake draft, okay? And then with Tom being our guest, he gets to have the best slot, which is the first choice, and it'll be snaking it. So what we'll do is Tom will go first, then it'll be Wells, and then myself, and then like for the second round, I'll go first, then Wells, and then Tom will have the last choice in the second round and the first choice of the third round, right? So does that kind of all make sense? How a snake draft works?
I think so.
Wonderful.
I definitely heard I get to go first.
So you get to go first. Don't worry, and I'll guide you. But so this is top 5 epic rides.
So as I sort of mentioned as we were warming up for this, I tried to think about this in the kind of Earth-based land, sea, and air, and then up into space, and then really out into the universe. Unless anyone scuffs me and chooses my favorite choices, but I'm going to start quite close to Earth. And my top ride is the spinner from Blade Runner. That's where I want to go and like put out all of my chips forward. There's nothing more futuristic than a flying car. So choice number 1, Blade Runner, flying car, the spinner.
I think that's a solid choice right out the gate.
It is. It's going to be very noticeable that we'll be able to see your spinner, in Islington as we look up into the sky. But
So who's next?
Wells, you're up.
All right, I'm up. All right, so I'm gonna pick my first one, which is maybe a little tiny bit of a stretch for a ride, but I consider it a ride, which is Ripley's power loader suit from Aliens.
Right. Okay.
It's a good.
I have want that noted as an option, so that we're totally allowing that.
Yes, yes. No, I think it's super utilitarian. It could also fit within other rides. So it's useful as a team of rides, basically. That's my first choice.
I like it. I like it.
I almost would have had that myself, but I'm glad you chose it. Lawrence, then.
Yep, I'm
What-
next.
What have you chosen, and why is it Optimus Prime?
He's not on my list, actually.
Optimus
prepared.
Prime has been on
prepared.
his other list.
I know.
Don't worry.
I almost thought I'd get in there first and just go Optimus Prime.
Okay, so speaking of sci-fi and how I got into sci-fi as a child, I didn't actually think this is going to be my first kind of round pick, but I'm going to go with it because I also love food. So I'm going to go with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Turtle Van that also doubles as a pizza van, because I actually don't have a pizza oven and I would really like that. And I feel like it's a very practical, I have a parking space, in my building. I own one, but I don't have a car. So this is the perfect vehicle for me. That's my number one pick.
That was in my extras.
It was in
list.
your
Yep,
extras.
yep,
Okay.
yep.
Okay.
So is it Wells next on round two?
Well, no. So
Lawrence
I get
gets
to go again.
Oh, right, Lawrence.
I
Oh,
go
right.
again,
I see. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I was probably going to save this for the end, but I'm just going to go with it now because I don't know where it's going to go. But hopefully, it's kind of swings the draft, or maybe it's just kind of random. But I'm going to go with Aladdin's flying carpet.
I love it.
Because again, it doubles as a beautiful carpet in my home, which I probably need. And then, if I have to zip to go see Tom, and to have a drink, I'd actually be able to do that on a magic carpet ride, I believe is what would happen.
There we go.
Okay.
All right. My next one. Okay, I'll throw out the double duty one as well for me, which is also the wild card for my 5, because sometimes you just need to make money too. So I chose the NYC taxi cab from The Fifth Element.
Okay. Uber
versus Spinner. Yeah,
it's similar.
Yeah,
but I got the meter running in in there.
Oh, I think I need a flying car at some point just to compete. Okay. Okay, Tom. So you have two. You got 2 going in the next round now.
Oh, wait, hang on. Well, I'll just. So I'm going to stick. I didn't choose Power Loader because I was going to go the APC from Aliens as my ground vehicle.
Ooh,
and this is only because I think Aliens is the film that I watch more than anything else. And the scene when Ripley drives the APC through the amateur processor is absolutely iconic, and I think it's really establishes Power Loader moment first. Kind of establishes she's definitely like technical and cool.
Mm-hmm.
A compassion for Newt when all the Marines, as they're exploring, everyone else is ready to on a trigger finger, and even though she's the only one who's actually seen the alien at this point, she's
the one willing to go in there
save
and
the human, and then driving the APC. She's a badass, and it just sets up the rest of the film. So Aliens APC.
I like it.
And what's
your?
Yeah, you get to go again. We're in the 3rd round now.
Right. So my next one is for no reason at all, other than I just love it. It's the orca from Jaws, because I just like Jaws, and
I love it.
It's the orca.
You're gonna need a bigger.
And it pops into my head because they just released a Lego version of it, and I
did they?
That secretly? Yeah. No, they haven't.
Oh,
no one gone buy it. There's definitely. I need one for Christmas. don't abandon shelves. The orca from Jaws, but just reasons.
Wonderful. All right, so my 3rd choice is for all the Trekkies out there. I chose the Delta Flyer from Voyager, specifically the Delta Flyer, not any other shuttle. It's a shuttle, it's not a huge ship, but it's the only shuttle that actually has a steering wheel. Like everything else is a console, but like Tom Paris built it to be more of an old school ship, so it's got actual controls that you can do. So I always loved that ship when I was a kid watching Voyager. I was like, when they introduced that, I was probably in high school at that time, but I loved that ship so much. So I picked the Delta Flyer.
Wow. Nice choice. Okay. So I've got choices 3 and 4. There's so many good choices left. I'm gonna go. This is a little bit random. I'm gonna go with. I would like to ride Aslan from Narnia.
On your magic carpet.
On the magic carpet.
Aslan is half ride, half mentor. So again,
Love
I
it.
feel like I could get a lot of value out of Aslan. And in the the first pick of the fourth round, it's kind of random. You can only use it one time per year, but I'm going to choose the Polar Express. Because you get to go to the North Pole. And I feel like, come November, like once Thanksgiving passes, like friends and family will start to get really excited, wanting to join me on the Polar Express.
Get some hot chocolate. It's a lovely time.
It's a lovely time. So yeah, I'm going to go Polar Express with my fourth pick.
Okay. I'm going to go. I almost went with this before, but I wanted to knock out my others as soon as you said the magic carpet, because I'm going to also go with a cartoon this time. It's a very old cartoon because it's probably around the same time as Aladdin, actually, but I'm choosing Kit's airfoil from the show Tailspin.
Oh, okay.
I don't know this one, but I need
Deep
to check
cut.
this out.
So they took Baloo from the Jungle Book, right? And they made this whole other show called Tailspin where they're all pilots and they fly these like planes, but Kit, the kid bear in it, has what's called an airfoil, and he can jump out the plane like he's skiing but on the air. And it was the coolest thing when I was a kid. Lawrence, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I realized I just chose like all like weird fantasy children's stuff. Actually, that's
Deep cut here with Tailspin,
Wow.
apparently, but
yeah.
Tailspin was my absolute jam when I was a kid. I had like they released before they stopped putting actual toys in the cereal boxes. I got all of the Tailspin ones out of the Frosted Flakes boxes one time. It was great.
Okay. So Tom, you're up, and then you have two choices, kind of finishing you off for your whole top five.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm changing one up because I've been a bit too grown up here. I was going to be really on brand and talk about something from 2001, obviously, but if you had Arthur on, obviously, he would pick something from that. So let's just acknowledge that the opening scene of 2001 in space is just iconic, and then that's my grown-up answer. But my child answer is the Phoenix from Battle of the Planets. Which is, a much more iconic spaceship for young Tom, and we talked a lot about young Tom today. So I'm going to give him the points and say, "Oh, we just had the magic roundabout." Well, you win now in the comments. But I'm still going with my kids' version, which was the Phoenix. I used to love that cartoon, and I know it was edited from something that was much more serious and grown up. But I didn't know that as a 4-year-old. I just liked a space plane that turned into a giant fiery bird somehow, and that was how it defeated giant robots from space. So that's my kind of in space choice. And it is. Did you say I'm again now? To sort of,
you got one more. And this is your
we
last,
get the last one, and then we're last time around.
I wanted to go out as far as possible into space, and that made me think. Then, if we talk, I've talked so far about things like human built. So we talked, is there alien life out there? So my final choice is actually the UFO, the classic flying saucer.
Flying saucer.
That's built by extraterrestrials rather than humans. And to give it some sort of visual context, then I'm specifically choosing the UFO from the "I Want to Believe" poster on Fox Mulder's office wall in the X-Files.
Perfect.
But to represent and stand in for all UFOs.
Oh, love
but mostly that one.
That is the classic.
Frisbee thrown into space.
Yeah. Just classic.
No, that's class. That's it. I was going to ask are you going for the UFO emoji? The one that is just in all of our phones.
No, I'm definitely going for "I Want to Believe."
Yeah.
I like to believe.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Okay.
I guess my last choice is up.
Your last choice. Yeah.
All right. I'm going with another one of my favorite movies that I think is slept on by a lot of people. And I'm going with the Herkimer Battle Jitney from Mystery Men, which is the big armored van from Mystery Men that they they get to like storm the castle basically. And also you can turn on the magnets and it like sucks all the metal stuff
I
to the
love that
outside of the
movie.
hull.
I think I've
Yeah.
seen it like 50 times. Yeah.
I love Mystery Men. Absolutely love it. It is slept on. Yeah.
It's a
Great
very
movie.
good choice. See,
Yeah.
now I'm switching out the spinner. I know I'm allowed to switch out, but I'm switching out the spinner for the Bluesmobile from Blues Brothers, based on your kind of, to go with the turtle van and your van. Well, kind of.
Yeah.
If we're just old schooling it, I'll be in the Bluesmobile.
Yeah.
There. Perfect.
Which also flies if you watch the movie. Anyway,
There you go. There.
Okay.
Wrap this up.
All right. So the last pick, I think I'll go a little bit traditional. There's two that I'm like really wanting to go with, but this was originally my first pick, until I went with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles van. So I'm gonna go with the TARDIS.
Oh, I was hoping it would pop up at some point for somebody.
Being British now, British citizen, and I feel like it'd be semi-nondescript.
It's a requirement.
Yeah. That's what I'm gonna go with the last pick. Can't believe it made it all the way through, but we did it. We did it.
We did it.
I think everyone's a winner.
Yeah. If we all had our fleets, I think it, all of our dreams would come true. So.
Yeah, I think we've certainly learned a lot about each other.
Yeah.
I think you do. I think you do with these, as what I've discovered in having done a few of them now.
Yeah. And I think coming back to what we started talking about right at the beginning, what we've really reinforced there, for me at least, is this idea that there are so many different things that we can all be super passionate about that don't cross. Not even crossing the streams. Ecto 1 is another classic ride that I just didn't have anywhere to put it in. Yeah. So,
were there any other honorable mentions for folks? Just like your backups?
One of my backups, which I absolutely love, was the Swordfish 2 from Cowboy Bebop. It's Spike Spiegel's ship in the Cowboy Bebop. I think that I love that ship so much. I also picked the Eagle 5 from Spaceballs as a backup. And the Iron Man suit, because that's a ride too. So
that's a good
I went really basic with Iron Man. Yeah.
I had for Transformers, I saw the Optimus Prime thing, so I was going to go with Cliff Jumper, the mini box, because he was the first one I ever got as a toy. But I also had Heart of Gold from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, that's a good one.
Probability Drive, because then I can have all of the rides. Technically.
Yeah,
that's technically true. Correct.
So
let's talk of Red Dwarf. Sorry, this is who mentioned Red Dwarf in the comments, but obviously the Starbug, right? It's not a classic ride. It's trash. It's great. Sorry,
No, not at all. Like, so I had these two nominees. I thought they were gonna go. I thought I was gonna pick them. The first one was the Doof Wagon from Mad Max. Obviously, it has to come from Mad Max Fury Road. It's got to come with the giant speakers, the Doof Warrior, and a flame-throwing guitar. It's just not that practical to drive around London, if I'm being honest. So, so I wasn't sure. And then this isn't a ride. I actually debated about this all afternoon, whether or not I should choose it or the Aladdin Flying Carpet, which is Mary Poppins Umbrella, because I thought it would be also very practical. You can't really ride it though. It sort of just takes you places. So I decided not to go.
I would classify that as a ride.
I mean, from the Mad Max one, I almost had Max's Interceptor itself, except he just crashes it all the time. It's not a classic ride. Yeah. It never lasts. So the Doof Wagon is the win.
Well, if anyone else, we're gonna put this out on like Twitter and Instagram, and we'll have a little poll and Discord and everything.
Some polls and everything.
Yeah, if you think you have a better 5, that's not any of our 5s, I guess. Let us know in the comments, or do a little graphic or something. I am seeing some awesome, things that we missed out. Rocketeer suit, or I guess the Rocketeer pack. I guess it would be Knight Rider, Kit, DeLorean.
Acknowledging all of them, and immediately passed over them because I thought, nope, that'll get taken immediately. I think all of us did that. So that's why the TARDIS made it through all the way to the end.
And what I'm seeing here, if anyone's coming in the comments, is that this needs to be done again, but taking a vehicle and putting it in the context of another property. So, for example, the balloon house from Up would also look amazing in Fury Road. I
Yeah.
think. We'll put that in.
That's a good point. All right, we'll come back. Maybe we'll do it around the holiday season, Tom. We'll do another draft. So.
Yeah, I'm working on my sequel draft right now. This has been really fun. Thank you, everyone, but thank you both, to you two especially, and for all the people putting in this fantastic. You're basically making me want to go and rewatch loads of new stuff now.
Correct. Yeah, basically. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Tom. Well, you've deserved, a nice glass of wine, and you can go watch, one of these movies or shows again. Thank you so much for coming on, and I'll chat to you soon personally, and then hopefully we'll be able to have you back on another live stream.
Well, that would be amazing. And yeah, thanks so much, everyone. ClarkeAward.com, I should probably say, for our shortlists and winners.
That's right, yeah. And
fantastic reads right now. Almost forgot my job. Spent all this time saying I'm in marketing, forgot to pick myself up. But I've really enjoyed this. So
yeah.
Good one, everyone.
All right, have a good evening. See some of you in the social gathering afterwards. We'll be there in 5 or 10 minutes.
The link is down there. Yep. Bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye.